Good evening. Tonight we're going to do something a little different. We're going to be reading some bedtime stories for children. So if you like children's storybooks, or if you have a little one, then you're in for a treat. The first story for tonight is going to be Finding Winnie, the true story of the world's most famous bear. And it's by Lindsay Maddock, illustrated by Sophie Blackhall. If I said those names incorrectly, I apologize. Before Winnie the Pooh, there was a real bear named Winnie. In 1914, Harry Colburn, a veterinarian on his way to 10 horses in World War I, followed his heart and rescued a baby bear. He named her Winnie, after his hometown of Winnipeg, and he took the bear to war. Harry Colburn's real-life great-granddaughter tells the true story of a remarkable friendship and an even more remarkable journey. From the fields of Canada to the convoys across the ocean to an army base in England. And finally to the London Zoo, where Winnie made another new friend, a real boy named Christopher Robin. Here is the remarkable true story of the bear who inspired Winnie the Pooh. Could you tell me a story? Asked Cole. It's awfully late. It was long past dark, and time to be asleep. What kind of story? You know, a true story. One about a bear? We cuddled up. I'll do my best, I said. A very long time ago, about 100 years before you were born, there was a veterinarian who lived in Winnipeg. His name was Harry Colburn. A vegetarian? Said Cole. Bear doesn't like vegetables. A veterinarian. It means an animal doctor. I know that, Cole said. That's what I'm going to maybe be when I'm big. If a horse had the hiccups or a cow had a cough, Harry knew how to make them feel just right. Harry's hands were never cold, even in Winnipeg, where winters are so frosty that icicles grow on the insides of your nose. That was just the kind of doctor he was. But a day came when Harry had to say goodbye to Winnipeg. There was a war far, far away, beyond the end of the country and on the other side of the ocean, and he was going to help. He would be caring for the soldiers' horses. Harry rode east on the train full of other soldiers. He leaned his head against the window, watching the land scroll by, wondering what it would be like to be so far from home. The train rolled right through dinner and over the sunset and around 10 o'clock and into a nap and out the next day until it stopped at a place called White River. Harry decided to stretch his legs. On the train platform was a man on a bench with a baby. A baby? Said Cole, annoyed. Hope you can see the pictures. A baby bear. A cub. Harry stopped. It's not every day that you see a bear cub at a train station. That bear had lost his mother, he thought, and that man must be the trapper who got her. What do trappers do? Asked Cole. It's what trappers don't do, They don't raise bears. Raise them? You know, I said. Love them. Harry thought for a long time. Then he said to himself, "There's something special about this bear." He felt inside his pocket and said, "I shouldn't." He paced back and forth and said, "I can't." Then his heart made up his mind, and he walked up to the trapper and said, "I'll give you $20 for that bear." "Is $20 a lot?" asked Cole. "Back then," I said, "even more than a lot." "Captain Colburn," said the colonel on the train, as the little bear sniffed at his knees, "we are on a journey of thousands of miles heading into the thick of battle, and you propose to bring this most dangerous creature?" Baird stood up on her hind legs as if to salute the colonel. The colonel stopped speaking at once, and then, in quite a different tone of voice, he said, "Oh, hello." The men of Harry's regime squeezed by to have a look. "I've decided to name her Winnipeg," Harry told them. "So we'll never be far from home. Winnie for short." They had a very long way to travel, and they had already gone 3 or 4 feet when Winnie grew hungry. "What do bears eat?" the men wondered. "What don't they eat?" said Harry. "Vegetables," Cole reminded me. "Winnie ate vegetables," I said. "She ate everything except onions." They brought her carrots and potatoes and apples and tomatoes and eggs and beans and bread and a tin of fish and a slop in a dish. But Winnie was still hungry. "How about dessert?" said Harry, holding up a bottle of condensed milk. Taking the treat in her paws, Winnie laid on her back and hummed a happy song as she drank. The men roared. Harry and Winnie gathered with the soldiers from all over Canada in the green fields of Valcoutier. A whole city of tents had sprung up there. One was a hospital for horses, where Harry went to work. I hope I said that city correctly. If I did not, I apologize. Valcoutier. Winnie was in the army now. Harry taught her to stand up straight and hold her head high and turn this way and that just so. Soon, she was assigned her own post. Even the colonel agreed that Winnie was a remarkable bear. She might have been the best navigator in the whole army. If you hid something, could she find it? She could. What if it was further away? And farther still? Remarkable, he cried. In the evenings, both of them were too tired to move. When Harry thought about Winnie and the voyage across the ocean, his head said, "I shouldn't." His head said, "I can't." But his heart made his mind up. Nobody had ever tried to float so many people and animals across the Atlantic Ocean before. 30 ships sailed together carrying about 36,000 men and about 7,500 horses and about one bear named Winnie. When they finally arrived in England, the regime went to training on the Salisbury Plain, where it rained and rained and rained, but Winnie didn't seem to mind. She was the mascot of the 2nd Canadian Infantry Brigade, and she attended her post with vigor. One day, Harry came running while she was doing her exercises in the tent. "You'll bring the whole place down," he said with a laugh. She had grown. It was winter when the order came. The time had come to fight. Winnie posed proudly with the men for the pictures to send home to their families. Harry thought for a long time. His head argued one way and then the other, but his heart made his mind up. He went to Winnie and said in a serious way, there's somewhere we need to go." Winnie brushed the mud from her nose and nuzzled in close. Harry drove all the way to the big city. "Here we are," said Harry. "The London Zoo." Harry took a deep breath. Winnie, this is going to be your home for a while," he said. She tilted her head. "We're shipping out to France," he explained. "I have to take care of the horses at the front." She rested her big head against him. "I know you want to come, but it's not safe." Winnie's head bowed. Harry's hands were warm as sunshine as usual. "There is something you must always remember," Harry said. "It's the most important thing, really. Even if we're apart, I will always love you. You'll always be my bear." "Is that the end?" "That's the end of Harry and Winnie's story," I said. "But I don't want it to be over," said Cole. "Sometimes," I said, "you have to let one story end so the next one can begin." "How do you know what will happen?" "You don't," I said, "which is why you should always carry on." Once upon a time, there was a little boy with a stuffed bear. He'd had this bear ever since he was a baby, but somehow the boy had never found the right name for him. He tried Teddy and Edward and even Big Bear. One day the boy went to visit the London Zoo with his father, and there was a bear, a real bear, on the terrace there. Right away the boy thought, there's something special about that bear. Her name was Winnie. They became true friends. The boy was allowed to come play inside of her enclosure. The boy was allowed to come play right inside of her enclosure. Once the boy had found Winnie, he knew what to call his stuffed bear. He called it Winnie the Pooh. And the boy was called Cole, said Cole. His name was Christopher Robin. Christopher Robin would visit Winnie at the zoo, and then he would take his stuffed animal on all sorts of adventures in the woods behind his home. His father, Alan Alexander, wrote books about all of them. Harry's Winnie became Winnie the Pooh, and there has never been a more beloved bear. But what about Harry? Cole asked. When Harry visited Winnie at the zoo, he saw how happy she was. She was being raised. She was truly loved, and that was all he ever wanted from the moment they met at the train station in White River. So after the war, Harry returned to Winnipeg and his life as an animal doctor. Before long, he was married and had a son named Fred. And Fred had a daughter named Lorene, and Lorene had a daughter named Lindsay, which is me. And then I had a son. When I saw you, I thought, there's something special about this boy. So I named you after your great-great-grandfather, Captain Harry Colburn. I named you Cole. That's me, said Cole in a whisper. That's you. And that's Winnie. Yes, I said, that's Winnie. And it's all true? Sometimes the best stories are, I said. Cole's eyes grew big, and he said nothing for a long time. Then he hugged his own bear very, very close and let out a yawn that reached far away. And they both turned over and fell asleep. The end. Here's a picture of young Harry as a soldier. Here's a few pictures of some diary entries. And in the diary he states when he bought the bear for $20. There's pictures of soldiers with Winnie. And there's Harry and the statue of Harry with Winnie. Winnie and Christopher, and Cole and Lindsay. And that was Finding Winnie. Next story we're going to read is This Is Gus. This is Gus. Written by Chris Chatterton. This is Gus. Gus doesn't like much of anything. That's Gus. And apparently he doesn't like much of anything. Gus doesn't like being patted. Gus doesn't like going out for walks. He doesn't like fetching sticks or balls, and he certainly doesn't like making new friends. Gus doesn't like birthdays either. He doesn't like cake. He doesn't like balloons. He doesn't like presents. That is, until I arrived. Now Gus loves birthdays. He likes bath time. He likes hide and seek. And he really likes hugs. Almost as much as he likes sniff, sniff. Sausages. Gus loves sausages. He likes the smell of sausages. He likes the shape of sausages. But most of all, he likes the taste of sausages. And he isn't the only one. But Gus absolutely, definitely doesn't like to share. Sometimes I think Gus doesn't like anything except sausages. And me. The end. That was Gus. Now, the final story we're going to read is Click, Clack, Goodnight, written by Doreen Cronin and Betsy Lewin. Hopefully I said their names correctly. Click, Clack, Goodnight. It is nighttime on the farm, and Farmer Brown tucks all the animals into bed. Cows in the dark sound asleep. Sheep in the dark sound asleep. Chickens in the nearly dark sound asleep. Duck in the dark, wide awake. It is nighttime on the farm. Everyone is tired. It's time to relax, unwind and unplug. The cows are ready for bed. Farmer Brown pats their heads and turns out the cow light. Cows in the dark, sound asleep. The sheep are ready for bed. Farmer Brown brushes out their tangles and turns out the sheep light. Sheep in the dark, sound asleep. The chickens are ready for bed. Farmer Brown covers them with a blanket and turns on the chicken light. Chickens in the nearly dark, sound asleep. Duck is not quite ready for bed. Farmer Brown sings him a song and reads him a book, turns on the white noise machine and puts a shadow puppet show. But Duck is wide awake. practices downward facing dog with him, discusses the day's top stories, debates today's top stories, and turns out the duck light. Farmer Brown in the dark, sound asleep. Duck in the dark, wide awake. Hope you could see that. Duck tries to sleep like a cow, but it's too crowded. Duck tries to sleep like a sheep, but it's too soft. Duck tries to sleep like a chicken, but it's too bright. Duck finds a soft spot under the maple tree. No cows, no sheep, no chickens. It's not too soft, it's not too crowded. The moonlight is just right. Duck closes his eyes. Chit, chat, chitter. Chit, chat, chitter. Chit, chat, chitter. The bats in the trees are wide awake. Duck finds a spot by the pond. No cows, no sheep, no chickens, no bats. It's not too soft, it's not too crowded. There's no chit, chat, chitter. The moonlight is just right. Duck closes his eyes. Burp, burp, butter. Burp, 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 burp. The frogs in the pond are wide awake. Duck knows a new spot. No cows, no sheep, no chickens, no bats, no frogs. Duck also knows where Farmer Brown keeps the hot sauce and sliced cheese and the whole wheat bread. His stomach is full, the mattress is firm, the book is just right. Farmer Brown's pajamas are soft. The moonlight shines through the window. Duck closes his eyes. Duck in the dark, sound asleep. And that was our last story. I hope you enjoyed every one of them. If you did, please like, subscribe, and comment. Have a good night. Take care, and I'll see you again soon.